So one of my titles is Keeper of the Secret History of Queen Yaa Asantewa. Keeper of the Secret History of the War of the Golden Stool. When I was initiated in 2017 in the Tano Yao Shrine in Ejisu Besiasi. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Shrine. Tano Yao is the war god that Queen Yaa Asantewa was born. When she was born, and this is like sacred history. So when she was born, they thought that she was a twin. When her mother gave birth to the first child, it was let me see how I can say this. It was not a baby, it was a god. It was a deity that came out of the womb. It was identified as a god, and so it was given into the shrine, the Tano Yao Shrine. And the Tano Yao Shrine is the royal shrine. So every royal house in Ghana has a Tano god, a Tano shrine, where we offer to the ancestors, our royal ancestors before us. And so Queen Yaa Asantewa, before she was born, her mother gave birth, and they thought it was twins. And so the first child, or the first goddess that came out, they took it to the shrine and they consulted. And it was said that Queen Yaa Asantewa has come to fight a war against the great white queen, right? Queen Victoria, right? So that they should take care of her, make sure she doesn't die of malaria, make sure she doesn't die of tuberculosis, make sure she doesn't die of any illness, because she's come to fight a great war against the great white queen. So that was a major miracle and prophecy that happened at her birth, that came to pass. You know, because in those days there were 4 Anglo-Ashanti wars before the last one, the War of the Golden Stool. So we understand that she fought in the 3rd Anglo-Ashanti War, which was commanded by a major general called Garnet Wolseley. And he was like a really big-wig British soldier, officer, who was also the governor of Sierra Leone. So the 3rd Anglo-Ashanti War, the British did this war under the guise that the Ashanti king owed them £80. So it was 1873. So anyway, however much that was, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a large sum of money in those days. And so they said that the Ashanti people owe them £80. They're going to war. And of course, this was a guise to try to get the golden stool. So Garnet Wolseley, he was born in a place, actually, it's a place called Golden something in Ireland, in Dublin, a town, or a little town in Dublin. And he was from a poor family, and obviously a Christian family, but you know, you think they're Christians, how did they do such evil, right? How did they come and
consistently,
yeah,
as well?
Because there's this guy, he burnt down Kumasi. He burnt Kumasi down because he couldn't get the golden stool. So before he left the UK, he formed a thing called the Garnet Wolseley Ring. It was like a secret society of special ops guys in those days who were trained, and the mission was to come and steal the golden stool, but they couldn't because Queen Yaa Asantewa was around. And but anyway, they did a lot of damage. They burnt down Kumasi. They invaded the palace. They took over the king's palace, and they what else did they do? They set up a treaty called the Treaty of Femena, the Femena Treaty. And Femena is one of the places in the Ashanti region where the gold mines are. You know, your company, right? Anglo-Ashanti, you have it here in South Africa. Yeah. That's them. So these guys were looking for the license for that mine to go and mine it and steal all the gold. And so Garnet Wolseley couldn't get the golden stool. So what he did to save face was he turned around and he said, okay, what you guys he burnt Kumasi down, and he said, you guys have to sign this treaty, Femena Treaty, and you have to pay the British 80,000 ounces of gold every year. So the purpose of that was obviously, as we studied the war, was to undermine Ashanti, was to bankrupt Ashanti, was to make Ashanti so unviable, you know, commercially, economically, so that they would not be able to install another king. They would not be able to, you know, to bankrupt them to the point where they could come back and get the golden stool. So when Garnet Wolseley did this, he went back to the UK and then back to Sierra Leone, and that's the interesting point there. So Sierra Leone, if I can go back a bit, Sierra Leone was founded at the end of the American Revolution. And so what had happened was that the British issued out a declaration called the Dunmore, I think the Dunmore Declaration, saying that Africans, the enslaved African people who fight for the British in the American Revolution can go free afterwards, and they will be taken to Sierra Leone. So Sierra Leone was founded by these group of abolitionists who, like Liberia, and they went back, they bought some land from the chief, and we spoke to a journalist in Sierra Leone, and he said, the land hasn't even been paid for. Right? The land, they still, the chief's descendants still want the British to pay them for the land because they stole the land. They didn't pay. And also the recognition and the understanding that they had with the British as to why they were giving them the land. It's not what they came to do on the land. The chief didn't know that they were coming to do a whole colonial exploitation thing. So this is the land where there was this whole it was a company, the Sierra Leone Company. So they had, you know, one of these charter companies like the Virginia Company. So the Sierra Leone Company, and then there was the Gold Coast Company, then there was the British South Africa Company, right? So all these companies, they were funded by wealthy lords, viscounts, earls from the UK. They had these big stately homes, right? Yeah. So these guys would put money into these companies to go and kill the natives, go and kill the savages, as they called, but they were the savages, obviously. Yeah. They came and committed the genocide and the massacre, and so they formed this Sierra Leone Company. They said, okay, it's for all the Africans who don't want to be slaves anymore. Come to Africa and you can be free, and you can have a piece of land. And so they kind of had wars with the indigenous people who were there already. They pushed them to the side, and then the Sierra Leone people who came from the Americas, they were known as Creoles, and they were under a British governor, and they started ruling. But they didn't just start ruling; they started planning colonial wars from Sierra Leone, from Freetown, you know. So they burned Kumasi down, looking for the golden stool. They couldn't find it, and the Ashantis, too many of us were dying. So we surrendered. The king surrendered, and but there was a general called General Amankwatia, and this guy was so brave. He died in the war, but the British had to salute him, because his bravery, they were just completely impressed by the way that he fought the war, you know, and the protocols and the honor that he carried with him was so brilliant. He was such a brilliant general, and so they had to salute him. Yeah. Anyway, so they, as I said, the Ashanti people, the king had to pay this war reparations of 80,000 ounces of gold. So they were bankrupting Ashanti. Yeah. And during those times, then the king died, and then a new king was installed, Prempeh the First. And Prempeh the First, he didn't have money. He was a young king, and by that stage, the British had made further had gained further control over Ashanti, and they wanted to control who was sitting on the chair, who was going to be the next Asantehene, which means warrior king. So Asante means because of war, and Asantehene means the warrior king. You can imagine, because in West Africa, in that part of West Africa where we call Ghana today, we have 34 or 35 slave castles. And so the Europeans were busy slave trading, gold trading, ivory trading, any kind of trade that they could do, they were trading, including on a major level Africans, enslaving Africans. And so Kumasi was like a market, kind of middle crossroads city. So all the roads from the north, where the Muslims were enslaving the villagers, the people there, there's mainly like people like Babatu. The Muslims were capturing slaves and they were sending them down to the coast to supply to the Europeans. And so so Kumasi was kind of, for me, I think it was a kind of military base. Yeah. You know, a military fortress, where the chiefs had come together, made a confederacy, made an agreement to be under the golden stool, because whoever had the golden stool was carried to war, was seen as being unbeatable. Yeah. You know, so we have a word in our language, a Kan language, called Otumfo. Otumfo means you cannot die at the hands of your enemy. And this is what happened, you know, with Queen Yaa Asantewa. Yeah. She couldn't be killed by the enemy. So when she was fighting, come the 5th Anglo-Ashanti War, the War of the Golden Stool, the king, Pembe I, had already been exiled. He was going to make a treaty. He wanted to make a treaty with Queen Victoria and turn Ashanti into a protectorate. And the Golden Stool was like, sorry, but I can't be under this woman. So the Golden Stool is a human being in and of itself. The Golden Stool is not like just a chair. It's I can say the spirit Golden Stool. And Queen Yaa Asantewa was the last custodian, the last protector, the last guardian, the last defender of it. And it wasn't a man, it was a woman. It was Queen Yaa Asantewa. So in Ghana, a woman can be a king, but a king can't be a queen, right? And so Queen Yaa Asantewa acted as the king. When the king was taken out and was taken into exile, Queen Yaa Asantewa, and remember, she was born for this. Remember, right? So she was born for this. So this story, she was born to fight this war. This was gonna happen. The ancestors knew that the White Queen would come to steal, because they were planning it. If we went back into the national newspaper archives to 18-something, and it would be good if you can have a look at this and include this in there, because you will see how far back they were planning to try to steal the Golden Stool. Yeah. And so why did they want the Golden Stool? They wanted the Golden Stool because it's the chair that, first of all, it's the Golden Stool that knows how to return back to its owner. It's the Golden Stool that chooses its own custodian. So it's a divine stool. It's a divine throne. And it's the person is chosen before they're born. You know, you're not chosen when you come here and there's a dispute. Like I was saying with the Zulu kingdom, I was saying to Tando, I said, look, why is the Zulu kingdom fighting? Zulu means kingdom of heaven. So if the king dies, the king spirit still lives. His spirit must be responsible for choosing his successor in a way that no other human being, no brother, no sister is going to argue with him. So for example, I would expect that when the king has died after the rites have been performed, that all the king's regalia, or some of the king's most important regalia, the seal of the kingdom, the various things that say you have this, you are now the king, those things will end up in the bedroom of the person who is going to be who's going to be the next king. so that they see that the spirit is on this person, and that anyone who tries him, they will die. Not he, they will die. This is the kind of thing that, because we're Africans, we're not white kings, you know, we're not like but in the name of the Father, we're not Christian kings. We are traditional African kings. So as they say, if I'm taking care of my kingdom, I'm sitting in my kraal, and someone's stealing my cow in my land, on my land 2,000 miles away, how will I know? The spirit has to tell me. And so we've lost that, and we have to have that back, because they took that from us. Not because we become Christians. If they were Christians, so why did they want our spirit things? Why did they want them? Because their Christianity hasn't got spirit. Why do Africans change Christianity to make it about spirit? Because we were born with spirit, right? We come from spirit. We are the original people. And that's how we were created, by our Creator. Every human being is a child of the Creator. As I told Tando, I said that the Creator creates us, and all of us are children of the Creator. But we get told, this is your mother when you're born. This is your father. And you say, okay, this is my mother. Well, what is your mother going to call you? Your mother calls you, this is your name. If you get a Christian name, you're Sarah. You're not Sarah if you're African. You are your mother's been Christianized. We fly the nest, right? And then so you're no longer under the wing of the mother and the father. And that's the time that the Creator gives us to, we say we get kicked out of the nest. We get kicked out. You get to 15 and you start hanging out with bad friends, and like, you can't stay in my house, get out, get out, get out. You know, you tell your children, get out. I don't want you here anymore. You fight. And so you get out, and that's the time that you get to mess around, and at least I got the time to mess around, do bad things. And then after, I think when I got to 18, then I remember having a conversation with my Creator. I said, you know what, Creator, because I was in England, and I said, Creator, you know, this is how it is. I know I'm supposed to serve you, but guess what? I don't know where to go to learn how to do that. I've been to the church, this charismatic church, and you're definitely not there. There's definitely no God there. It's just no. I said no. So when you're ready to show me, I'll be there. I'll be listening. So the 3 years of partying went on to like 20, let's say 19, 21, 22, 23. And then there was like a time of like, I had to start working to be able to raise the funds to get back home. So there was another 3 years of just raising funds and working, and no partying and stuff like that. That's such a long process, you know. I mean, I think that you should never find out who you are. It takes in a day or in a year. It takes so many years, and you must never, one of the things I learned, you never define who you are. If you feel like who you are at the moment, like I can say, I read this great book. It's an Aboriginal people. They say that they were saying to a white woman, what's your name? And she said her name was such and such. He said, is that the only name you have? He said that you come into this world just with one name. He said, we have more than 5 names throughout our lifetime, and more than 5 purposes, you know. So at one stage of your life, you could be this, and then that dies like a kind of chrysalis, and then you take on another form, another person. So, you know, so I've had so many different lives in this life, on this body, you know, so it's very hard. And each one mattered. Each one was part of leading me to the next one. So even the ones that were not quite right were also there to tell me that's not right, do this, you know. So I needed the wrong part to get into the right part. And then like, so I mean, it's hard. I mean, I guess we can talk about that another time, but finding your purpose is one of the most difficult things you ever do. And it's one of the most important things that you ever do. And it's not supposed to be easy, and it's going to be hard, and it's a long, long, long journey. And you need help. You need to go and see holy people. You need to go and see your elders. You need to go and see your gurus. You need to go and see and not just holy people from Africa, from other races as well. It's one of the things I learned by traveling to Asia and South America, to learn more about who I am and about who other people who, you know, are in terms of traditional elders and native people, is that the indigenous races of planet Earth, we've all been given different gifts by the Creator. And so none of us have the same thing. And so so that's why we need to learn from each other. And so when you get attracted to something, you think, oh, you know, like you look at Chinese culture, you think, oh, I love their kung fu, or I love their medicine, or I love the way they do acupuncture. That's their gift. You know, like I say, like they're the people of Qi. They're the people, the way they do things, the way the light is on them and the angles. They're just different people, and they're created in a different way. And so we're also created in a different way. But actually everything came from us, right? Every race came through Africa. And even the Chinese recognize that. They recognize that life began in Africa. And one of the things that I was, in a ceremony that I did, I was told, the Creator said, why did I create your hair the way that our hair is? Why is our African hair the way it is? And, you know, you see, when you're living with white people, you see that their hair is such a big deal. And they're always changing the hair and styling it, and it's straight. And you think to yourself, because, you know, with us, we've got the whole industry of weave on, right? And the whole thing that women do when they put all the white people's hair in their hair. But actually that's how we communicate with the Creator, isn't it? That our hair has got special power. And that signifies that we've been kind of singled out and chosen for a different purpose to other races on the planet. So we have a special job. So it's kind of like we've been through real darkness over 500 years. We've been through a lot of darkness, but then there is a time that we have to come back into the light, and that time is happening now, when our people are waking up slowly, and we also understand that the suffering that we've gone through, the colonialization, the slave trade, it's for a reason. Because we've got a race that's taken over all the races, not just the African race, it's taken over the Chinese race. Because Chinese people are not allowed to do how they used to live. Indians don't live how they used to live. Everybody has to have a president, everybody has to have politics, everybody has to have, has to be what the Westerners have turned the world into. And so now it's like the native Indians, they call the Westerners little brother. They call the white man little brother. And they say the time of little brother is coming to an end. You know, so they came and they've given us technology, cars, planes. You know, Credo Mutwa's prophecy. I don't know if you ever saw, it's in the book, I saw it in Daba.
In Daba, my children, yeah, we've got.
Have you seen his paintings where he paints a plane, and he has the tokolosh, and he's got the white man, the blonde hair, right? You've seen that?
Yeah.
So that was a prophecy from I think an Indebele Sanusi that he painted when he was initiating in Zimbabwe.
Okay. Oh, and did he go to Zimbabwe for part of his initiation?
Yeah, he initiated so many different places.
Okay.
I remember he told me that in one of my meetings, he said to me, he went to go to initiation, and he went to the mountain or to the elder who was initiating him, and they offered him 2 drinks. They gave him water, and they gave him orange juice. And he said that they said, which one do you want? So he took the water, And they told him, if you were going to take the oranges, we wouldn't be initiating you. So say for second, you know.
Oh my God.
Because if you don't take the water, you can't deal with that level of initiation. You need to be drinking the water. That's very interesting. And for us in our tradition, we say the creator is too remote, right? So human beings, ordinary human beings cannot connect with the creator until you have been through so many hardships. You have to pass through a lot of suffering, And so the golden stool is the throne that is carried from heaven by the creator to earth. And so the creator chooses a soul to carry that, you know. And so a soul is born with the divine manifestation of the golden stool, chosen by the creator, because your soul has to be what we call in our tradition white, and we say pla, pure white. Yeah. So in my elders will say, I was born with a white soul, only that the people who stole the stool after I was born have tried to change that into something that it's not supposed to be, because they've been using the stool in the wrong way. So being a human being is about descending from heaven, descending from the light, and then restoring and refining your way back, understanding our need for the light, our need to be in the light. And what has happened though is that the forces that are controlling this planet, they steal those sovereign powers, holy objects, sacred objects, and they confuse human beings, thinking that people believe that, well, if I can be like Kim Kardashian, then maybe I'm going to be in the light, maybe I'm going to be famous, maybe this will make me stand out, maybe this will make me look like, you know, I'm better than somebody else, or I'm good, but this is all darkness playing around with the light, you know, and the truth. And so our sacred and our holy objects from our kingdoms that they've stolen, they need to come back home. And when the golden stool is stolen, then someone will be born to come and bring that back home, because it doesn't belong even on the earth. It's a gift from the creator to help us to restore the kingdom after war. So people get slaughtered, people get killed, chiefs get killed, mothers get killed, children get killed in wars. So how do you restore the kingdom? How does the kingdom return? Is it that every time there's a war, then that's the end of the kingdom? We all have to follow the oppressor, you know. So we need the golden stool in Africa. It's not just for the Ashanti people, it's for Africa, to restore to help restore what's been taken, what we've lost. I mean, I remember I went to the British Museum, and I said to my assistant, I said to her, I mean, you know, look at this Buddha. Where's the priest that should be guarding it and offering, you know, incense, puja and prayers? You know, why is it in the museum so that some person can just walk past it and desacralize it? You know, I went into the Victoria and Albert Museum, and they had this piece, it says Buddha goes to heaven, and I was like, come on, you guys can't be doing this. Buddha goes to heaven. And they're just like, oh, Buddha goes to heaven. Do you actually understand what that actually means? It's a real thing. He actually went to heaven and came back. He went to heaven to see his mother, and it's depicted in this stone carvings, and they have it on the wall. Where did they steal that from? What temple did they take that from? Take it back, you know. It's sacrilegious, you know. And the devotion that has gone into carving that, they take that, right? That devotee energy, that devotion, because it's not something that someone was paid to do. It's something that a devotee has done, and that's the energy that they're taking. You know, so it's like when you look at the system of celebrity and you look at the concept, what the word they call fans, right? And then social media they call followers. If you take that concept and you ask, where did that come from? It comes from these objects. Because to make these objects and to have these religions, you have to have devotees. You have to have followers. And I tell you the difference between, and this is what I've been taught by the Golden Store, the difference between followers and devotees, and as opposed to fans, okay? So let's take I was given let's take someone like, let's say, Bob Marley. And Bob Marley, if you listen to not all of his music, but the ones that are quite philosophical, and he says things, every need got an ego to feed, or he will say something like, everything in life got its purpose, got its reason, bringing forth fruit in due season, right? So so I remember that I did a ceremony, and so I was told that Bob Marley, he had an ancestral spirit.
Right.
But because he was taken into slavery, you know, on the slave plantations, they weren't allowed to practice their traditions. So those spirits turned into to voice their spirituality through the music.
Music, that makes sense.
Right. So and then you get signed a contract, and then you get on stage and you start having concerts, and then you get fans. It's like, I love your music. Oh my God, and then you start screaming, and everybody loves. But the thing is that if you look at devotees and you look at Lord Krishna or any of these powerful deities who lived lives, who actually lived physical lives, and they had loads of devotees and followers. When that person returns back to heaven, when Krishna went back to heaven, his devotees, his followers followed him. So there's a film where you see him entering into the water. He's going back to where he came from, because he's going through that path. He doesn't die like any ordinary person, and he returns back home and his devotees are following him. So the point I'm making is, when you follow something or when you're devoted to something, it's because our religions have been destroyed and the artifacts have been stolen, and the objects of devotional worship have been stolen and taken by the Westerners, and they're using them for their commerce to get people to buy into what they do. So they've taken that spirit away, they've taken that energy away, they've taken that god and goddess away, and they've put it into they've replaced it. And it's turned into this commercial thing. So at the end of the day, you know, they've created almost like a religion. They can turn a celebrity, Michael Jackson, he can become a religion. And people will be absolutely devoted to him, study his dance moves impeccably, and be able to actually be him. You know, but that's what we used to do in the temples. We wanted to be like the gods. We wanted to be like the goddesses. We wanted to be like our creator. So I think when I started as a Queen Mother, so I went into the priesthood and the healing, teaching, learning initiating as a healer, but as a Queen Mother healer. And so my viewpoint was always as a Queen Mother healer. And so I was taught, and I was told when I was learning to do healing, one of the things that I remember being told was, what is the point of healing people if they're going to die anyway? And it was such a profound question, and I could never answer it for about 2 years, 3 years. It took me 3 years, you know, because sometimes the Creator would ask me these questions, and I could not answer them straight away. So I would hear them in my head. What's the point of healing people if they're going to die anyway? And so you can take it like tongue in cheek, like, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point of this person's going to die? Let them die. You could take it like that. So I was confused. Why am I being asked this question? And then I realized that you don't heal the body. You heal the spirit and the soul. Right? And when you heal the spirit and you heal the soul, that continues even after the person has died. Right? So you know what I'm talking about. So it's the white doctors who heal the body. They operate, they cut it up, and they give you medicine. And sometimes, yeah, your body is in pain, so you need a painkiller. But you're going to leave it one day. So for me, the message I was being told is I need to heal spirit and soul. You know, and the body afterwards. The body wasn't so important. So if someone came to me, I'd deal with the spirit, and I would then send the body to the herbalist. You know, say, go and get the herbs, or go and take a paracetamol, or go to the Western doctor to get your body fixed. But in terms of your spirit and your soul, I can deal with that. But I can't deal with anything else. So I'm not going to be able to help you there, right? So that's what I learned. And then from learning that, then I understood that, you know, it's not just individual spirits that need to be healed. It's the spirit of a nation. And it's the soul of the nation, you see. Because the baby lives in the mother's womb. The mother and the father live in the house and make the family. The family lives in the village. The village is part of the tribe. The tribe is part of the kingdom is part of the nation is part of the continent is part of the planet, right? So then this is how I learned about healing in terms of souls, spirits. So it's like the one in the microcosm in the macrocosm. You have to, so if you're going to heal the planet, how do you go about that? And my elders told me, souls are saved one by one. And I'll never forget that. When I landed in my village after I left the UK, and I just landed there, and they sat me down, they said, souls are saved one by one. And what you're doing is what every other African who is living over there has to do, to come home and learn. So whenever I used to heal, I used to heal one person at a time. And in that one person, then I started to understand more about the world and about their ancestors, and you know, the history where they've been and how they've destroyed different people's cultures, and this is what I wanted to try to get across to the British people I used to heal, is that, do you know that I can take medicine and I can see in you the destruction that your ancestors have done from hundreds of years ago? So if I can see that, why would you want that inside of you? Wouldn't you want to atone for that? You know? So it's like white people don't want to ever say sorry. They don't want to say sorry for slavery. They don't want to say sorry for apartheid. They don't want to pay compensation for anything that they've done wrong. Why? Because that's part of a spiritual process. You can't, if you've done something wrong, you have to atone. And so for me, my healing and the healing of the soul started with the wrongs and the mistakes that I did in my life, and having to atone for them and pay. My elders would sit me in the village and they would say, right, your ancestors said that you did this when you were this and this and this, and so now you've got to pay 3 chickens, you know, you've got to pay a cow. I remember when I started doing my atonement, I would say to my elders, I've done that now. Why hasn't things changed? Why haven't things changed? I said, because you've got to go and atone for what your family did. I was like, what? You know, why do I have to pay for what they did? And so there was a lot of that. There was a lot of atoning for what my family had done. And that kind of made me angry, because why am I atoning for their mistakes. But then again, they, you know, you can just see them kind of looking at you from the other side and just laughing and, you know, mocking you. Because that's what the elders, they mock you, you know. We have what we call contombli. And the contombli, I don't know what you call them, they're the dwarfs. Do you have that? They're little people. Yeah. And they live in the river, they live in the mountain, and so we say contombli. So when you're first training, the contombli will say, hey, you go to this river over there and go and offer me this and this and this and this. And you say, okay, which river is that? They said, this is the Black Volta. Go to the Black Volta, where the three rivers meet. Go and offer me this there. Okay, so you organize the car, you organize the money, you barter with the guy in the village. How much are you going to charge me? He's overcharged, and you get him down. And you say, okay, I'll pay that. You get in the car, you drive 2 hours away. It's a rough road. You get there, you take out the offerings, you offer it, you come back, you go back to the elder, and you say to the elder, okay, tell the contombli I've done it now. And so the contombli, I've done it. And so when you call the contombli in our village, you know, the elders will sit there, they have a little kind of white cloth on the screen, and they have a shaker, and they're shaking. And then they say, and then the contombli comes and says, Fumana, makwamana. Ça va. You know, they talk like this, right? And then when you greet them, you say you have to say hello. How are you? How's your mother? How are your children? How's the mountains? How are the rivers? You have to You have to go around and greet every single living being, the mountains and everything like that. And once you've done that, then they'll say, no. I didn't mean that river. I meant that one. You're like, oh. After all of that. They say, no, I didn't mean that river, I meant that one. So you know what they say, with the contombli, they will frustrate you. And what they're actually doing, they're breaking you. They're breaking your ego, aren't they? They're breaking your ego in a really cruel way. They're making you, they're taking away your pride. They're taking away your arrogance. They're taking away all these things that a healer's not supposed to have, right? That's what they're doing. And that's the only way they can do it. And it's cruel, but actually that's how they train you. And it's quite something. And then after you have been through this process, you've changed. Yeah. Because you don't have any you left. It's just like you're a servant. You're their servant. You know, you're ready to be a channel for them to communicate, to help others through. It's not easy. What happened was that I was 28 and I went home to Ghana. I came back to the UK, and after I came back to the UK, it's like my head opened and I went into this other space, a completely different realm. I think in Hindu they call it the I can't remember, there's something loka. It's like a heavenly realm, really high. And when I would look at the trees, I wouldn't see trees, I'd just see the trees dancing. And everything was at the level of peace. All I could feel was peace and happiness. And just every time I saw a tree, it'd be dancing. I would start talking to the trees. Yeah. Queen Yaa Asantewa, when she was fighting the war, the trees would tell her, hide, run, the white man's coming. And the trees would be speaking, so she was able to speak with the trees. And then after, it became so much, I felt like I was disconnected. I felt like if I stayed here, I would just need to just go. I didn't need to be alive anymore. I wasn't connecting with human beings anymore. I was connecting with the other realm, the higher realms. And so I said, okay, Creator, if you want me to still be here, then this has to stop, because I can't continue to function. So what happened was that I came diving back down, and as I was coming back down from this, like, no medicine, just being up there, having gone back home to do my ceremonies for the first time, then I just ended up hearing all this screaming, like, screaming, wailing souls, like crying, help, help. It was awful. And I was like, oh God, these souls asking me for help. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll come back down and help. And I look back at that always and I say, if I had known what I'd known, I wouldn't have come back. So my journey to South Africa started in Great Zimbabwe, and with a spirit called Rukweza. And he said, you have to go to South Africa because when you were born, and you were born with Queen Yaa Asantewa prophesied, she told the British, if you ever come back to my land and you take the golden stool, I will be reborn and take it back. And we call that Sankofa. Sankofa, you know, which means I have gone back and I have taken it, or I've gone back to fetch it. And so when I was born, the stool was, you know, as I said, you're chosen before you are born, and the transfer happened before I was born, and there was a manifestation. The stool returned back to where I was born. And then the British came to steal it. And so in Great Zimbabwe, the Zikiros, the Mondoros, the Hai, the Imbuya Zarira, who is she was a very old lady, a guardian of Great Zimbabwe. She is in the reincarnation of the previous Imbuya Zarira. She helped the comrades Mugabe and the ZANU people fight the Bush War, and they used snuff. So she would tell all the soldiers, you know, take this snuff and drop it over here, and then you're going to be able to kill this amount of white people, you know. And so she was like a commander of the war in some ways, a spiritual commander. And she commanded the war. And so I met with her, and she said to me, you need to meet the president. So I was like, well, why? And I had meetings with any Vikiro, any of the elders I met. They said, you have to meet the president. And so I didn't understand why. And so this is when I was getting this happened in 2017, the first year after my initiation as the keeper of the secret history of the War of the Golden Stool. So being the successor of Queen Yaa Asantewa, then I was told that the British came after I was born. They took the stool and they put it on a ship, on a warship, and they took it to South Africa, to Simonstown in the Cape. And after my journey in Zimbabwe, and I realized that they said to me that your lineage is from Great Zimbabwe, you are Makarenga, you're one of us, you are an owner of Great Zimbabwe, we have to have a shrine for you in Great Zimbabwe eventually. And the stool was used in Zimbabwe, and it was also used in South Africa for the independence. So the British had used the stool to underwrite their Independence Act. And this kind of knowledge and understanding came after I had to go around all the holy sites in Zimbabwe. I had to go to Mapapoma, which is Masayotunya, Victoria Falls. Okay. I had to go to Injalele in Matopos, where the rocks are, where Cecil Rhodes is buried. So I had to go to this place where they have a talking cave. Okay. You go there, and the elders take you into this cave, and you ask the cave a question, and it talks back. And so this ship took my stool to South Africa. But then in understanding that, there's a stool in KwaZulu-Natal Museum, the second golden stool. And that was taken from Queen Yaa Asantewa on the 3rd of March, 1901, when after the British had kidnapped her daughter and her grandson in order to get her to hand herself in, because they couldn't capture her. Anytime they tried to, she disappeared. She would disappear. And so they were frustrated. They couldn't lose the war. Well, they had lost the war. They couldn't because they'd lost the war, they needed to capture her and send her into exile. And so when she exchanged her life for theirs, and she handed herself in on the 3rd of March, 1901, she had to give 4 stools, and one of them was this stool that's in KwaZulu-Natal. It's been here for 100 years in South Africa. And so Queen Yaa Asantewa's victory is what we call like the independence victory of Africa during the time of Queen Victoria. And from what I understand, what I've been told, Queen Victoria died on January 22nd, 1901. Because she couldn't get the golden stool, right? So I kind of have this kind of comedy where it's like, you know, Queen Victoria's in her house and she's like, have you got the golden stool? Have you got the golden stool? If you don't get the golden stool, I'm going to die, you know. And she died. They didn't get the golden stool. Queen Yaa Asantewa hid it in the forest, but because of her, to save the life of her daughter and her grandson, she handed over what's called the second golden stool, because the golden stool doesn't come out every time. It's hidden. It comes out maybe once a year, or for ceremonial purposes only. And so the second golden stool is the stool that people see, and that's in South Africa. So the British brought it here because they were setting up their African headquarters in South Africa. Because remember, they invaded Africa, right? They carved Africa, not just South Africa. So they wanted to attack Africa from the east, from the west, from the north, and from the south. So they attacked Ethiopia, Sudan, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Nigeria, Ghana, and then Southern Africa. And so the powers that they took from West Africa, they brought it into South Africa. And so the purpose of the tour is to acknowledge the route that Queen Yaa Asantewa took into exile. And because this is her 100th centenary commemoration memorial year of her passing, or we say home calling back to heaven, because Queen Yaa Asantewa doesn't die. She's too big to die. She entered into the other world. So she passed on into the other world, or we say she was called back home to heaven. And so the tour is to acknowledge that she came into exile via the Cape, and they took her power from her and gave it to the British. The British took it and they were using it here. So the aim of this tour is to, first of all, meet with the different kingdoms, meet with the Limpopo kingdom, and to find out my lineage, to check my heritage, my connection with that kingdom, and then also to meet with the other kingdoms that fought wars against the British. So you remember I talked about Garnet Wolseley. After he left the Gold Coast, he was sent back to the UK. Then he came and burned down Ulundi in the Zulu War. So it was the same guy who came and burnt down Ulundi, who burnt down Kumasi. So we share the same history, right? We have the same colonial invader. We've got the same problems. And so I want to meet with the kingdoms to remember our ancestors, because it's so important that we combine our strength, our power, and we demand our things back.
Yes.
We reclaim our things back. So that's one of the purposes, is to remember those who died and fought in the colonial wars for our independence, against the invaders, against the Boers, against the Dutch, against the British, and to talk about what do they still have that belongs to us, and how can we get that back? And to meet with the government and explain to the president that, you know, without the golden stool there would be no independence in Africa, and to start getting these governments to acknowledge Queen Yaa Asantewa's role in independence, her sacrifice, the sacrifice of those who lost their lives in the War of the Golden Stool, and to help them to understand that the Golden Stool, without the Golden Stool, there would be no independence. There'll be no free Nelson Mandela. The Golden Stool is linked to the dismantling of apartheid. Without the Golden Stool, they wouldn't have been able to do that. The whites will still be in control. And so they're not acknowledging where the power came from. And so the tour is to teach people the history about the great warrior Queen Yaa Asantewa.